And welcome back to Attorneys on Call. You know, not every case gets settled out of court. There are those times when the case actually does go to trial. What's it like to actually stand in there with a jury and being in all that? Well, Ann Ochsner from the Whitley law firm joins us in studio with Whitney as well. And Ann, what is that like, especially for a client that maybe there's some trepidation about, you know, going to trial? And I'm curious as to how you manage through that whole process.
Thanks, Drew. That's good to be here. It's a good question. From the client's perspective, I think I would say the trial process is extremely stressful, and that not one of my clients has come to me and said, let's go to trial. And I think the key feature of that is an absolute lack of control. Because in a trial, you're handing over the decision making to 12 strangers, you know, a jury of our peers. That's a system that we have. And so, you know, therein lies the risk. None of us can predict with any certainty what the outcome will be. And so, for that reason, it's an extremely stressful process for our clients.
Do you find yourself playing the role of counselor, so to speak? I mean, not just counselor at law, but you know, you're counseling this person on keeping them calm and working through that, because you're an experienced attorney who's been to court many, many times. So that's what they're counting on.
Absolutely. This is where the attorney-client relationship, I think, comes into its purest form. My role in that process, I take with great responsibility, because my job is to tell my client's story, you know, and that's not something I take lightly. And so really getting to learn the client, what his or her life was like before the injury or the incident giving rise to their injury, then learning about the injury itself, and then the aftermath, everything, you know, that has flowed from it. That requires time, requires, you know, spending time in their setting, at their homes, with their family members, to really, so you can communicate to those 12 jurors that are going to be sitting in the jury box what impact an injury's had on somebody.
Whitney, give me an example of one of your clients that you had a case that actually you couldn't settle and it went to court. And why did it go to court? And give me some examples of that.
Well, oftentimes a case will go to trial because the insurance company has denied the claim. They've said that our client was for some reason at fault, or maybe that the other driver wasn't at fault for whatever reason. Another way would be if they're saying not all of the medical treatment was related. So you have to push it to trial then and really develop those tenets of your case. If they're saying these injuries aren't related, then we're deposing the physicians for our client. We're getting experts to talk about the mechanism of injury and how the wreck, specifically how it happened, could have caused the injuries our client sustained. So you really have to dig into the nuts and bolts whenever you prep to go to trial and then take that next step. And it is a really long, really difficult process.
And what typically, how long does you know, you're talking about a serious accident case and such, and we know that the court docket can be pretty long. So typically, is there a typical time frame that it usually takes, or?
Sure, and I don't think there's a black or white answer to that. I would say on average about 18 months from the time you file a lawsuit to the time that it would be going to trial. You know, it could be shorter. Our court system is trying to get these cases through the system and holding attorneys to a pretty tight schedule on that. So it could be something shorter, could be something longer. Like Whitney said, it's not a quick process by any stretch of the imagination.
When you said you're telling your client's story in that courtroom, can you give us an example of that?
Sure. So I'm thinking of a particular case we tried. This case involved a shoulder injury. So our client, 50-year-old male, self-employed, did auto body type work and custom airbrush painting. So and he's right-handed. And so this was an injury to his right shoulder. So before his particular injury, you know, he's using that arm. He's lifting pieces of sheet metal, welding it together, you know, building custom auto bodies. If he's airbrushing, this is like fine motor work. You know, he's using his right arm daily, and he's self-employed. It's him and his wife. He's the support for the family, the breadwinner. if he's not using his arm, he's not making money, pure and simple.
Right.
He was involved in a motor vehicle collision and ended up suffering a full thickness tear of the two of the muscles that form the rotator cuff.
Okay.
Couldn't do his job. He ended up with 2 surgeries and all of the physical therapy that goes along with that. I've never had that, but that's a painful surgery. It's a painful recovery situation.
Right,
and so,
right.
you know, how do I tell that story, you know, to a jury and the impact it has on him and his family?
Once again, at any time, you can call the 800 number on your screen. You can also go to the website, which is whitleylawfirm.com. You might be out there right now thinking you have a case, and that's why we want you to know operators are standing by right now. So you can call at any time or when it's convenient for you as well. Whitney, being a trial lawyer is I know that it's something special because, as Ann said, you know, you're telling your client's story. We have just about a minute to go. So how would you summarize, you know, what that whole process is like and how you are able to work with a client in that case?
Well, you become their ultimate advocate, right? I mean, litigation is a contentious process. So the client is up against an insurance company. They're up against a team of lawyers, and they look to you to be their sole and their most powerful advocate. Now, luckily, our firm, we work in a team in a lot of ways, and you get our resources and our team of lawyers, but you really do take on the client's cause, and it's important to be totally immersed in their life, what it was like before the wreck, how their family's been impacted, what their kids are like, how dad can't play games with their child anymore because they have a brain injury or an orthopedic injury. And so it's really all those reasons that get us up every day and get us so motivated to come in and say, how can we help our clients this morning?
That is great. And once again, call the 800 number, go to whitleylawfirm.com, and we thank you so much for joining us for this edition of Attorneys on Call. We'll see you next time. Have a good night.